Hey, friends, before we get into the episode, I wanted to tell you again about something special that I've been doing for a little over a month, and it's absolutely been amazing. I have a private network. It's called Mighty Networks, and we have a small community going there. We're doing 2 to 3 lives every week, which is really fun in a Zoom call to get to know people. So it's not just a live where I'm talking, everybody's interacting with each other. We ask questions almost daily. We do polls, we do just for fun questions. But the biggest thing that I'm seeing is the community that's being built between the members. Every single person is a verified widow, meaning they have to send in their death certificate so that I know that they are widowed. And it's been a beautiful community. Every single month we have a theme, and I'm loving getting to know widows on a more personal level and a deeper level because on our online community with 13,000 people, I just can't do it. But here I'm able to. In addition, you get the Widow Goals course that comes with it. And so it takes you through the book, Widow Goals, Steps to Finding Peace When You Lose Your Spouse. There are quizzes and worksheets, and it will help guide you through that. So there's so many things that you get with it. You actually get a free month just for being a podcast listener. Go to the link in the show notes, enter in the code podcast for a free month. You could even get your whole course done in 1 month and do it for free. So hope you join us. Now on with the show. Welcome to Widow Too Soon. This is Michelle Bader Ebersole, and I am so excited about today's guest and today's subject. I know a lot of you are very curious about dating again, dating after loss. As you guys know, I've been through it and am remarried for 3 years now, and it was quite a process. But I remember just a few months after Luke died being kind of curious. And so you may be curious today. You might be like, I don't want to hear it, and you don't have to listen to this. But I think most of you are going to want to, even if it's not where you are today, you're going to want to hear this episode because we actually have an expert on this. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our guest today. Aleeza Ben Shalom is an internationally recognized matchmaker, dating coach, author, and star of Netflix Jewish Matchmaking. She has helped thousands of singles find meaningful, lasting relationships and trained hundreds of matchmakers worldwide. Aliza is the author of Matchmaker, and host of the Jewish Matchmaker podcast on ILTV, where she shares practical, value-driven advice on dating, relationships, and building strong marriages. Welcome, Aliza.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
How are you today?
Good. Doing
Good.
well.
And you're coming all the way from Israel. That's
Yes.
so amazing.
Yeah.
I love the gift of technology that connects us wherever we're at. But we actually had the privilege of meeting in person in Nashville at NRV, which was so awesome. I saw your book and I was like, that's a cute book. Matchmaker. I mean, I'm not dating now, but I know a lot of people that are. And actually, I think I talked to your assistant first, and then I got a chance to meet you. And I was like, you need to talk to my widows. Like we need some help in this area because a lot of us, we haven't dated in 20 years, right? And the whole system has changed. Like when I dated Luke, my first husband, we didn't even have texting or anything, right? You had to pick up the phone and call them on our flip phones. Like it was no texting, no social media, it was like, that's how it worked. And then when I got back into the dating world, my first thing I tried was Facebook dating, and it was crazy out there. And I just felt like everybody was inappropriate. And I was like, what happened to people's values? I'm a Christian, and I would check that they need to be a Christian. They would say they are, but then they would be like all inappropriate. And I'm like, what is this world? Like, this is not what I'm used to. Thankfully, my husband and I, Joel, we connected through Facebook, but not through Facebook dating. Like we went to college together, reconnected. I know you have a name for this in your book and on your TV show.
Mystery in your history.
Yes, mystery in your history. That's it. And I've seen so many. Another one of my really good widow friends, she reconnected with someone from elementary school and they got married. There's a lot of this I hear of.
That's why there's a name for it, because it literally happens all the time. So it had to have like an actual title for what you should do to find somebody.
Yeah. And so that's, how we ended up together, and it's a long story, but we got married 3 years ago, but it's so fun. My favorite weddings are widows weddings, like who are getting married again. I just went to one like 2 weeks ago. One of my best friends, she'd actually been widowed twice by the age of 40. And then she just got married to her third husband on April 10th. And it was just beautiful. There's just something so precious. And then watching their kids all interact with each other. but it was a journey to get to there. Like it's a lot of work when you're coming in with baggage, when you're like, I've got a whole life I lived without you, rather than, I was 24 when I got married before. I was fairly young and, not a lot of things. Now it's like, okay, I've got kids, I've got this, I've got I've got grief that you've got to know how to deal with. There's just so many things. And so I'm so excited to have you here. I watched all your episodes on Jewish Matchmaker on Netflix. Everyone should go check it out. It was so fascinating, like just so fascinating to learn about these different techniques we're going to talk about today. Yeah. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about how you got into this world. Like I've never met someone who is a matchmaker. I just hear about it in movies, or it makes me think of Fiddler on the Roof, matchmaker. Like, that's the first. I remember being in 6th grade and watching that movie. We watched it at school, and that's the first time I heard the term matchmaker. And I'm like, so anyways, this is a new world I know nothing about. Like, how did you get started with this?
I started organically and a little bit, I would say, like innocently. I didn't grow up from a history in a family of matchmakers, although there's a lot of Jewish people that have that, like, oh, my mother
Yeah.
was a matchmaker. So that's not my story. Although my grandmother was always, like a sweetheart and always, talking to people and connecting with people. But matchmaking, it's not something that, like, you don't grow up going like, oh, one day I want to grow up and be a matchmaker and
Yeah.
I'll go to school for it and I can study it. Like there's
Right.
right? It's not something that exists in a traditional sense, but in terms of matchmaking in the world, there is now a matchmaking institute, like a global matchmaking worldwide
Really?
institute that
Wow.
services all faiths, all backgrounds, whether people are religious or non-practicing under any
Yeah.
umbrella. They're there. We have actually the Global Love Conference that's coming up soon,
Cool.
and it's a place where you can get training and you can actually learn what to do and how to do it. But I started organically within my Jewish community
Mm-hmm.
because a friend of mine, she's like, oh, this was also many moons ago, like 20
Yeah.
years ago. Oh, like I'm a matchmaker online on this online dating site. Like the singles put their information in, but they can't search the database. They can't be their own matchmaker. All of the
Right.
apps today, you need to be your own matchmaker. But this
Mm-hmm.
app, when you put your info in, only a matchmaker can set you up. And there's a group of about 500 volunteer matchmakers that are in this
Oh,
database.
wow.
Right. And thousands of singles. And so I started volunteering as a matchmaker online between having children. I got married 23 years ago. We have 5 children,
Mm.
ages 7 to, no, we came here, ages, I got age up 12 to 22.
Yeah.
Um, and, and I started just volunteering as a matchmaker. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this.
Yeah.
Like this is the best kept secret. Nobody told me how
Yeah.
empowering and supportive and incredible this is and how much I would fall in love with it. And a part of matchmaking is being the matchmaker, being the connector to bring 2 people together.
Right.
But even more than that is being a coach, somebody to walk the walk, talk the talk. What do we do? How do we do? How do we navigate the process? And then like the closer, like the person that's like, yeah, are we going to have a wedding or are we done? Do
Right.
we need to break up? So it came all very organically, but it grew out of a deep passion, and then it turned into a profession because I needed to get a job, and I was like, I
Right.
don't want to do anything else. Like this is
Yeah.
it. This is my
Yeah.
thing. And then I was like, okay, well, let me figure out how to build a business. And so I started to build a business around it so that I could afford to do this full time.
Wow, that's amazing. And I also want to know how you got on Netflix. That's a big question. Like, how do you get a show on Netflix?
So, okay, so I'll give you the fast forwarded version. But after I started to do the matchmaking, I then started to do coaching. Then I would train other
Okay.
matchmakers and coaches. Then I wrote a book, my first book, which is
Oh,
called Get
okay.
Real, Get Married. And it talks all about how to get over your hurdles and down the aisle.
Yeah.
And after that book came out, one of the kind of like the online Jewish papers was like, "Oh, do you want to write for us a little dating column?" So I started writing for
Okay.
them, and then Huffington Post. I applied to do like be a
Wow.
blogger, and then I started submitting articles there, and it started to be like drip, drip, drip. And then I am from Philadelphia, and the local news there, I got
Okay.
Valentine's Day comes up, and they need to write a story, and so then there was an article that came out and then I started as you can hear, it started to snowball and it kept
Yeah.
going. And I would train coaches, I would train matchmakers. I started to build a business and a whole team. And then I started to have like an intuition more than anything that I was going to be on TV. Not like I wanted to, some
Yeah.
people
You
choose,
just
like they
kind of
really want to.
knew. Mhm.
Yeah. So it wasn't TV that I wanted. I really wanted to make a massive impact on the world. And I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out like, what's the best way to actually like, when you say
Right.
change the world, but I literally mean globally, not just in my little corner of the earth, but globally, how can I make a massive impact? And I started to have this intuition, like, you're probably going to be on TV. And I was like, that's such a funny thing. Like,
Yeah.
I never did
Okay.
plays. I wasn't an actress. Like, I have none of those skills. And I started to get like phone calls about interviews and different things that started to pop up. And I was actually interviewing for a different program. And I just also had another intuition. I was like, this is not going to be a good program. And I was like, God, please, I want to do something big and I want to change the world, but it has to be
Right.
for the greatest good. If it is not in alignment with changing the world in a positive way, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do something. So I need you to send
Yeah.
me the right thing. And a matchmaker friend of mine she had her own business. She came to me for some extra training. And then we started running matchmaker trainings together, and
Wow.
she would host it and I would be like the, guest speaker. She got a call for an interview for the show. And
Okay.
she goes, I don't want to do this. This isn't right for me, but I
Right.
host a training with Aliza. You're going to like
Yes.
her. She has good answers, and, she can answer like on the spot. She can come up
Yeah.
with things. She's very, like, whatever. She's got all the things that you want. It was
Yeah.
basically her pitch. And she called me. She goes, I gave them your number. Casting is calling you. And I was like, oh, I
Okay.
know I'm going to be on a show. So
Yeah.
actually made the match with me and Netflix.
So cool.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the dating stuff later, but I'm just curious about this stuff too. What was it like having them follow you around and filming, and how long were they filming? I guess I'm really curious too, because I saw the show. Like,
Yeah.
how long was that process like that they were following you and filming, and then they had to go, but it was in the US. So you had to
We,
come be in the US
we
for
were
a
in
little
the
bit?
US and in Israel. So
Oh,
it
that's
was a
right. I remember seeing a
7
couple in
Yeah,
Israel.
it was a 7-month process. So
Okay.
I started out in the US and I was there for about 3 weeks. And then I flew back to Israel. Then I
Okay.
had like a 2-week break. Then we filmed in Israel for 2 weeks. Then a
Wow.
couple-week break. Then I flew back to the US for 3 weeks. Then a couple-week break. They came back to, and
Wow.
it went back and forth like that for 7 months.
Wow.
Um, it was, it was it wasn't intense, meaning the amount of filming was just intense because I was away from my family for a long
Yeah.
time. It was the first time that I can't remember another time. I mean, I was never away from my family for
Right.
multiple weeks at a time. That was like not
Right.
normal. Like I was a mommy, nursing my children, sleeping
Yeah.
in my bed and
Yeah.
snuggling with me, wearing them in a sling all day long.
Uh-huh.
So that part was hard to adjust to. And also being a wife and a mother and somebody who's so
Yeah.
connected to the family, um, that was a challenge. But the work itself wasn't so hard. They would do makeup, and that was the hardest part. They would do your makeup, and it'd be like, they're like 2 hours. I'm like, can we do it in 1 hour? Like, does
Yeah.
it really
So
need to?
long.
Like, can we just cut it down? Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what you need to do to my face, but like, can we just make it less intense? And then we would film for, I don't know, 2 hours, and then I'd be
Mhm.
done for the day. And then maybe the next day film again, and then we'd fly to a new city and then film there. And so we would just bounce around to different places. And then they would film either with me. After they'd film with me, they'd film the single person by themselves. Then they'd film them on a date together. Then they'd film follow up. And so it was just a little bit of,
It's a lot.
yeah,
But
but
exciting.
it's really exciting. Like you show up and you see a whole crew, like 15 people are there, cameras and lights and 3 trucks, and like they're there because they need to film you, because there is a show that's being made that
That's
is
crazy.
featuring you, and the feeling of like, you're here because you came to do this for me.
I
Like
know,
this, I
it's
mean,
so cool.
obviously they're hired to do this for the company and for Netflix, but it also felt incredible to be seen and recognized. When a
Yes.
person, and I'll just speak from my own personal experience, when you have such a passion, when I felt
Mhm.
like I just want to share it with everyone,
Yeah.
because if you have wisdom, why not share it with the
Yes.
most people
I feel.
possible so that everybody can help themselves? And to not be seen and to not be recognized is so frustrating. But to have
Mhm.
your wisdom be highlighted, and for somebody to go, you have something that the world needs. And you're like, I know that. I know that. But for
Yeah.
somebody else to believe in you,
Yes, that's
really
huge.
it feels so affirming.
Yes.
It's like the biggest hug in the world.
Yes, that's how I feel about like widow awareness and how
Right.
we need to help. Like I do a lot of just recognizing that although God mentions widows 103 times in the Bible, so few churches help them. And so I bring awareness to that. And I'm very passionate about that. And how can we get groups going and what can we do? And so I get that when you get a place, like when I've been interviewed on bigger shows and things, it's like, okay, I need people to listen. Like this is so important. I want to help these people. So I get that passion of what you're doing. And what you're doing is so important. It's life changing. So now I want to get into the dating part. Let's say I'm a widow who's ready to date. Like I feel, first of all, this is the biggest question I get, and I have my own opinions, but as an outside expert, I love to hear yours. There, people say to me all the time, "How do I know when I'm ready to date?" Like, do you know what you would answer for like someone who's widowed, a widow or a widower? And so sometimes when I say widow, I mean widower as well. So
Mhm.
someone who's widowed, what would you say to them if they're like, "How, Aliza, how do I know if I'm ready to date?"
I would say that there is a feeling of understanding and comfort with the situation and what's happened, where you've made peace with what's
Yeah,
happened. It doesn't go away. Like
right.
it has this like special place in your heart. It stays there and it never disappears. Sometimes it even grows over time. But where there starts to be a little space, almost like if you imagine a donut that has a hole in the middle, right? And that space almost doesn't exist after somebody passes away because they took that space, they filled it up.
Mm.
But when they exist there and there starts to be a little bit of space where somebody else could come in,
Hmm.
where your heart has opened up, where you have space in your life and in your mind, and where you start to have a feeling of, well, it would be nice to maybe go out to dinner with somebody. Well, it might be nice to have somebody to talk with sometimes. I'm not saying that I'm looking for the next love of my life. I'm not saying I'm ready
Right.
for the next chapter. Often people who have lost somebody, if they've had a very good chapter, it's almost like, well, I don't know if I'm going to have that again. So like, not worth it. Or like I, just because somebody's not physically with us in this world, it doesn't
Right.
mean that they're not with us in this world. They are
Mhm.
here. They are with
Mhm.
us. We are living and breathing with them in our lives. And I think even when people get married, you have to realize that there's three in our marriage. I had
Mhm.
somebody who he lost his wife. They had been married for 25 years. It was a beloved, beloved relationship. And he now has his new wife and he has children, and he takes his children to see his former wife's parents.
I love
And
it.
he said,
Mhm.
my new wife, she knows it's us,
Yep.
and there's somebody else here
Yep.
too. Like
Yep.
we're all a family together. And it's hard for somebody who hasn't experienced that before, doesn't know that necessarily. But with time, with compassion, with understanding. It's different if somebody's divorced. It's different if somebody's never been married. It's different if somebody hasn't ever lost somebody close to them.
Yeah.
So for example, I lost my mom over a decade
Mm.
ago. And so to watch my dad go through the process of not having my mom, and he was a married human, like that's the
Yeah.
only thing he knew since he was, 18, was how to
Right.
be married. Like they met at 18, they got married in their 20s, and they were married for, I think, almost 40 years. And he only knew how to be a married human.
Right.
And about 6 months afterwards, you could see like the grief was there, but the loss was there. And I said, listen, we can talk about this. And when you're ready, you should start dating. I'm not rushing anything, I'm
Yeah.
not pushing anything, but I know it won't be the same as what you had. It will be different. But there's sometimes a desire there to have a life partner and that you don't
Mhm.
want to do this alone. Some people don't want that or they're not ready for it. And
Right.
so, not speaking to those people, I want to respect where everybody's at.
Yes. Yeah.
But when there starts to be this little space where you're like,
Yep. I remember that.
there's,
Hmm.
there's a little, like, there's an emptiness that feels not empty from not having that person there, because that person's really with you. An emptiness meaning an openness to somebody else being in there.
Yes.
That you're just, it's kind of like if I invite you to my house and I say, come, I want you to be here. Come, I want you to sleep over. But my whole house is full. I don't have a space for you. But if I clear a desk and if I
Mm.
clear a shelf and if I make the bed and I say, oh, I have a space for you, there's a
So
space
good.
for you, right? So like we have to clear emotionally a space for somebody
That's
to
so
come in.
good. So
And
you
just a
just,
small one. It doesn't
yeah,
have to be massive. Like just open it a little bit and see if you can let somebody come in a little bit. And if it's not the right person, we can move on and try again or not try
yes.
again or pace it.
Yes. I usually tell people, I mean, which yours is way more in depth answer, but if the thought of dating someone again makes you sick to your stomach, you're not ready. Like they're emotionally not there. They don't have that emotional space. They don't have
Right.
that at that point because I remember being there, like when people are like, oh, you're going to date again. I'm like, that sounds awful to me. So I understand that a lot of people are in that place and that's okay. Like I always tell everyone, wherever you are at is completely fine. And how
Mhm.
I explain like how you can love two people at the same time. This is I heard it somewhere, but it's so true for me. Like you have one child, right? And you're like, I could never love a child this much. Another one. And then you have a second child and it's like your heart grows. That's how I feel about my late husband and my current husband. Like my heart just grew to love both of them. And one love does not cancel out the other. There's so much misconception out there, especially I got so much hate on TikTok. You must not have loved your husband because I started dating Joel 18 months after Luke and people thought that was too soon and all of this stuff. And I got married about 3 years after and people were so mean. Like, you didn't love your husband because you got married. I'm like, you guys don't understand. Like, mostly these are like TikTok haters, not anybody I actually know. But it's like, no, your heart expands. So
Yeah.
that's such a great answer to how to know. Okay. So then if they're like, okay, I know I'm ready. I feel like it. Like, what do I do? Like, just, coach someone who might be coming to you. Like, what would you tell them to do? Like, how do I even get back out there? Like, we didn't have texting last time. Like, I don't know this world. What do I do?
Right. A couple things. So first of all, there wasn't texting usually like back
Yeah,
in the day
right.
before. Also, a lot of people didn't date a lot. So I don't know how many people you dated before your husband, but I'm guessing it's not like you didn't date like 100
No.
people. Right. Right. So for many people, they don't even have a good dating, not like any sort of dating history. So they don't really have a lot of dating experience. So in general, there's a few different ways to meet people. One is through your own network. So you can talk to your friends, you can talk to your family. I'm starting to be open to dating. If you happen to know anybody that might be a good fit for me, let me know. Or if you meet somebody and when you meet them, you think, wow, that reminds me of her,
Hmm.
then I'd love for you to introduce me to them because whatever they know about you, if they meet somebody and there's some things that are in common, that might make sense to bring you together and make a match. So you can first let your personal network know if you're comfortable with that. If
Right.
you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not telling my personal network,
Right.
let's
Yeah,
think about that.
exactly. There's
What's,
that too.
what's option two? Option
Uh-huh.
two is to try maybe just going to some local events and community events. So it can either be a community event where there's, I'm making it up, a fundraiser for your local nonprofit, or you can go to a dog shelter and volunteer, or you can go to a soup kitchen. You can go places where people are doing good things for other
I love
people
that.
because
Yeah.
usually those are people with open hearts and, kind-hearted, good-souled people. And either you'll meet somebody that you might want to date or somebody might know somebody
Right.
that you should date. So you're expanding your network, and I'm teaching you a little bit about how to be a matchmaker, which is all about networking and
Yeah.
connecting and trying to put yourself out there but to a new group. So if you don't want to go to your own personal group, then you have to expand and try to find a new group. And while you're doing an activity like volunteering, it helps to break the ice, have something to talk about and have something to keep your hands busy so you're not just out there in the dating world. If you want to get into the dating world, sometimes there's local events where they'll say, oh, we're having an evening for whatever 30s, 40s, 50s who want to come and date and whatever they're
Hmm.
doing. You could try to find local events or even meetup. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah.
meetup where they have
Meetup.com.
different
Yeah.
groups, and sometimes they'll
Yes.
have dating things, sometimes they'll have regular things, but that's like local and that's in your community, or within, let's say, 20 minutes to an hour drive from where you are. And then after that, I would say you could try online. You could try getting on a dating app. It might be it's like the least gentle way to jump back
Yes.
in.
It's
Uh,
crazy out there.
yes, like
That's
you can
how
put
I've
it
done
as
too.
that's why you can put it as the last thing on your list. And the main reason is that turns you into your own matchmaker, like in the pool. Like you got to jump into the cold pool and like get shocked by all of the information and the ways of things that are happening. But it basically goes like this. I only expect 10% of the people that you view or connect with to be relevant. So out of 10
Mm,
people, that means one,
right.
maybe. Okay.
Yep.
Out of 100 people, that means up to 10, maybe. And when I
Maybe.
say relevant, anything from a maybe to like, ooh, I'm interested. And I expect 90% to be no, to be wrong, to be weird, to be ouch, to be oi. Like
So
it
many.
just, yeah. And as long as you know that when one of those things happens and it's like, oh, that didn't feel good, you can go, oh, that's a part of the 90%. Don't ask the question, oh, what's wrong with me that I'm attracting
Right.
somebody like that? That's not what just happened. What
Right.
happened is there's a lot of people in the world, and you happen to stumble upon one of the ones that's in a category that belongs over there, like
Right.
push it to the side. But they contact 90% of the people on the sites anyway. So you're just one of many numbers, and they figure if they keep trying, eventually it's going to work. And it's not a reflection on you. Like 90% of people should be wrong for you. It should be like, and some of them like very, very wrong. At least
Yeah.
70% should be like very, very wrong.
That's good statistics to know as people are jumping back into this. I didn't know that. I had no
And it should have
clue.
been, and by the way, some people are like, oh my gosh, Aliza, this is so depressing. Why would you say that? I'm like, no,
Mm,
this is brilliant. If you have expectations and you think, because I had a guy tell me when I asked him, like, how many possible matches do you think are out there for you? And he thinks about it and he goes, about 100. And I was like good matches? And he said, yeah. I said, well,
Yeah.
how many of those good matches have you met? And he's like, well, 5. I said, you've met 5. He was about 50 at the time. I said, you've only met 5 out of that 100. And he goes, well, how many do you think? I said, out of 100, I think only about 10 are going to be, in the range of what you
Yeah.
might be looking for. He goes, and I already met 5. You mean there's only 5 left in the whole world? I said, well, it depends on what your preferences are. But the reality of it kicked in, which made him think, wait, am I not judging right as I'm meeting people? Because if I have a connection or something just seems to work, I shouldn't be thinking, is there something better out there? Because there's not.
Mhm.
In general, the way of the world is in dating, it just doesn't work. And how do you know if it's the one? It seems to just keep on working. Like it just like, oh, that was nice or that was good. I'm not talking about the wow, the crazy, the fireworks, all of that,
Mhm.
but just the relationship between us, the conversation, the energy flow. It just seems to keep on working. Like, wow, this is just nice. Is this how it's supposed to be? Yeah. Yeah, that's how
Mhm.
it's supposed to be. And when we're fighting a really strong uphill battle where we just want to be in a relationship or we want to be with somebody and we're fighting for it, and it's like it's not just fluid or moving a little. There should be a little bit of ease to it. It can't be that it's all difficult.
Right. No, that's really good. Hey, friends, I am interrupting this amazing interview with Aleeza Ben Shalom to say, what would you guys think if I became a matchmaker? Aliza and I had a great conversation after this interview, and I'm actually thinking about doing the training and becoming a Christian matchmaker and helping you guys find love. But I kind of want to know what you guys think of this before I get started. I would love it if you could email me, michelle@widowgoals.org, and let me know what you think, or you can reply to this Spotify episode or connect with me on social media. Most of you are connected to me there. Let me know what you think because I might actually become a matchmaker. Totally new thing for me. But Aliza thought I might be good at it. So back to the show. So we talked a little bit about this before we were recording that there are scammers out there. In fact, I did a whole episode with someone who was scammed. Like, what advice do you give to people to make sure they're not scammed? Or have you seen this much? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't see it very often, but we do have tips. One is do not get in a car with somebody you don't know, meet
Yes.
them somewhere. Number 2, meet them somewhere public.
Yes.
Public
Yes.
means there must be lots of other human beings around. Make
Mm-hmm.
sure you park in a well-lit spot, and make sure that you're safe as you come and go to and from your car. Um, do not send money ever. I'm not
Yep.
like zero times in
Ever.
your life
Yeah.
should you ever send money. I can't get there. I need to fly to see you. I don't have money. I lost my job. My dog died. I don't really care what the
Anything.
story is.
Yeah. Don't
Like,
do it.
and especially for women, because we have such kind, good hearts and pure
Yes.
hearts. Never. It's not a question of if or when, like, oh, well, maybe if we've been dating for 3 months. No, you should
Never.
never be sending him money. If you're going to get married, if you're going to build a relationship, if you're going to merge your funds and merge your life, that's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
But when you're dating, you do not need to send him any money, because it's all a red flag. If you Google search somebody, which we're all prone to do these days, and you can't get any data on them, like literally nothing. They have no trace of them on Facebook, on any social media. They have no digital footprint. Very, very big red flag.
Yep.
I have one person that I know who is in uh, like digital, like in the space with law and the modern world, and you can't find this person online. They don't exist, because they know what the digital footprint does. Everybody other than a person like that has a digital footprint.
Right.
Online, we're somehow connected. You can get, I mean, like, I can Google stalk somebody. I mean that in
Yeah.
a kind way, so I could see if
Right.
somebody's normal. They should have friends. And when you
Yeah.
talk to them and you're communicating, if you talk to them and they say, well, I'm not really close with my family. Okay, sometimes that happens. And then they say, no, I mean, I don't really have any friends. Okay,
Mhm.
coworker, like, if there's nobody in their life
Yeah.
other than you, if it becomes like, oh my gosh, you are the most important person in my life, I have nobody but you. On one hand, you're like, wow,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm their everything. On the other hand, that is a massive red flag. And it means that either they're not a real person, or they're a scammer, or there's just something massively not okay with this situation. People need to be connected with people in
Yes.
their lives and interconnected within their communities. Like, you should be able to get same way with a job, you could get a reference. You should be able to get a reference on somebody. If you're
Yeah.
getting the feeling like there's nobody I could even call, even if I'm not going to do it, but even if I wanted to get a reference on somebody, that's a massive red
That's
flag.
huge. That actually happened to the woman I interviewed who was scammed. She said her kids were very cautious, looked him up, couldn't find anything. So she asked him and he said, I have a really high profile job. So they erased it all or something like that. Like
Yeah.
some huge red flag because there was no information about him anywhere. So that's important for
And
people
you
to know.
mentioned something also earlier when we spoke, which was that he never got on video, so she
Right.
never saw him. So now
Yes.
the modern day issue is, and this is only recent with AI, somebody can get on. It won't be who they
Oh,
are. So you
with
can
AI. Wow.
listen. We can use my voice, and I can have your face, and everybody will think that I'm you, right? You don't
Wow.
know. So
Hmm.
again, if they have a digital footprint, if you can follow a social media account. And I don't even like people being friends on social media, but just that it exists, that they have something there. To me, that's at least a place for us to start and to say, you're a living human being that exists in this world, that has some connections to other human
Yes.
beings. I'm not saying you're a safe person, but uh, you're at least somebody that I can explore going
Yes.
out with.
Let's talk about why you don't want them to be friends on social media. I'm curious about that.
So people go down a rabbit hole with social media. They start liking the posts and commenting on the posts, or they do nothing, and all of a sudden, we're like friends, but we're not friends. I don't know what you mean with liking or not liking, and I don't need you to see everything that I do
Yeah,
right
it's too
now.
much.
I don't know you. I don't know
Mhm.
you, and I don't want you to know. I mean, we do.
Everything.
We put our lives online. We do that on
Mhm.
purpose. But the goal of our relationship isn't a friendship. So I don't need you to friend me. If you want to get to know me, you should take me out on a date. Don't tell me
Yeah,
I read your profile and I know everything about you. That's not really helpful. I really want you to go
that's a
out on a date with me,
good tip.
and I want you to connect with me. So, and I also, fake relationships are built online. Oh my gosh, they liked
Mhm.
my post. They commented like every day. And then we're obsessed with all of the likes and the comments. And then they don't take you out, and maybe they just call you and they have a phone call 2 times a week. And then you're not even going out for 3 weeks, but they like everything. And it just confuses the brain. It's like, we
Yeah.
need, we need human to human to date, either by phone, by video, whatever it is, whether it's in person or long distance. And if we go out and I like you enough and you like me enough and we confirm that everything's legit and real, and then you want to follow each other later, okay. But I think it doesn't need to be a part of the equation. And I think that sometimes modern technology gets in our way.
Yeah. That's a great point. So let's say you weed through all these, you go on your first date. Like, let's talk about chapter 1 in your book that says date him till you hate him. Can you explain like what that means? Like, I'm finally found someone to date. Why do I need to date him till I hate him? What does it mean?
Okay, good. Here's the translation. It means that you should go out with them. Like when in doubt, go out. A lot of people will go
Okay.
out and be like, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess if I don't know, it must be a no. Because, like, if I knew, I would really know. Like, I
Yeah.
would know if this is the one. That's not good dating logic. And according to Aliza Matchmaker advice,
Yeah.
it's bad advice that if you're neutral, it's a no. If it's not a no, it's a go. If it's a maybe, it's a go.
Mhm.
It's not, you don't have to marry them. You just should go out on another date. So date them till you hate them is a playful way of telling people you should continue and see if there's something here. What I don't mean is like till you actually hate them. It's just
Right.
until you look at them and you're like, I'm not gonna wake up next to that face, and I don't
Yeah.
actually feel like hearing your voice or your opinion anymore. And you might be Mr. Right now, but you're not Mr. Right. And I'm
Yeah.
looking for Mr. Right. And there's a difference between Mr. Right now and somebody that I'm dating now versus somebody that I could see myself with long term. And also, just from like a biblical perspective, we believe in love your neighbor as yourself.
Hmm.
And that is a really strong, true thing that we have. And so I'm never really advocating to
Hate.
hate.
No.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. No, what it does is it's the phrase is so strong,
Yeah. I
and
remember
the
it.
language is like it's a little sticky, so it sticks with you. I had a woman who was in her 70s, and her mother and his mother set up this match. They were
Oh my
sitting and
gosh.
playing a
Cute.
game together. They were playing mahjong. I call them the mahjong mothers of this game, and they started talking about their kids and who had been divorced, or I don't know if one of them lost somebody. And they're like, well, maybe we'll get them together, and they set them up. And the woman that I spoke to who went out on the date, she said, well, after the first date, like it was okay. It was good. He was a good guy, but like I wasn't like wowed. She said, but then I remembered, date him till you hate him. So I mean, I didn't hate him at all. I thought he was a good guy. So I said, well, I should probably go out with him. I said, well, would you have normally done that? She goes, no, I probably wouldn't have continued had I not remembered that phrase. And then she said she kept going out. And then I checked in with her 6 months later and she's like, we're still going out.
Oh
She's
wow.
like, I was like, but how did you get over your whole thing? And she said, well, like he's a good guy. His look isn't exactly my look. And we started talking about history, and then we looked at old photos, and I thought, oh, well, he was really cute when he was younger. Well, had I married him then, this is what he looked like now. Okay. And
Oh
she
my gosh.
she talked herself into that he's a great guy who she could see where he came from and who he was and compared to who he is. And it was the phrase that kept her going. She's like, no, I credit it to you because I would have broken up. Our mothers made the match, but you really helped us to continue. And he doesn't really know that, so don't tell him. But
Yeah.
but it's sometimes hard, and a lot of people end a relationship before it begins. We go out on a
Yeah.
first date, we go out on a second date. We're very quick to say no because, and especially if we've had somebody, the love of our life, and especially if first time round it was maybe easier to date and it wasn't so complicated. To have something that's very slow moving doesn't feel good, but a
Yeah.
slow grow is really smart. And second time, if somebody has lost somebody, it's probably going to grow slow because
Mhm.
we have another space there that's like it is filled, and we are continuously over the course of time making a little bit more and a little bit more and a
Yeah.
little bit more space for somebody to come into our heart.
Right. Yes, that's so huge. I love that. So, I can't remember what it was called, but you have a saying about not touching in the first so many dates or something. Can you remind me what that is?
So I have something called the 5 date challenge, and
Okay,
I
that's okay.
ask people to touch hearts before other parts.
I love
And
it.
I really want people to get to know each other. And I would love it if the physical would be out of the equation
Right.
because it's really unnecessary unless
Hmm.
you're a human being that I really see potential with. And it's really
Hmm.
confusing to know if I see potential with you, if I just like being held, if physical
Right.
touch is my love language and holding my hand or a comforting hug or a kiss or a snuggle, or if something is there between us and I am feeling really good about that, even if I don't like your values, even if I don't like the type of life and lifestyle you're leading, that physical comfort confuses my brain and my body and my heart, and it makes it very difficult to have clarity. So what I've learned is that doesn't matter what age, doesn't matter what stage, doesn't matter what background, country or culture you come from. If you go out with somebody 5 times and you still want to see them a sixth time, and they also want to see you a sixth time, we all have clarity that there's something more here. There's
Yes.
no question. You don't need a therapist. You don't need a dating coach. You definitely don't need a matchmaker. Nobody needs to give you any advice because the proof is right there. I like you enough to see you 5 times. I like what I'm hearing. I like what I'm seeing. I like what I'm feeling. And then if physical touch is introduced after that, first of all, I say take it slow, but
Yeah.
at least I know that the baseline is something where both sides are on board. And the interesting thing is, when I tell this to men, they're more easily on board with this concept than the
Wow.
women.
You would think they wouldn't be.
Right? No, you know why? First of all, I'll tell you what they tell me. They say, first of all, that's really smart. I
Mhm.
asked them, would you go out with a woman 5 times if you didn't like her and had no physical touch? And they laugh. And they're like, no, I would never. And I was like, great. Well, now you have a complete test. If you
Yeah.
go out 5 times and you still want to see her, then you actually like her. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, right. And I had a couple guys tell me, they're like, I would date him 10 times without touching him. If I knew that this was a good person for me and I really like them, that'll come later. I don't care. I'm
That's
in it for the
awesome.
long game. Like delayed gratification is fine. So for the women, you will also find out, is he marriage minded? Is he long term relationship minded? Is he serious dating minded? Is he just in it for fun? You will know exactly what he's in it for, and it'll help him clarify. And a lot of women fight me on this, and they're like, but they'll never know without this. You got to try before you buy. Everybody has their own rhymes that I don't agree with.
Yeah.
But I have heard from anybody who's tried this, by the way, they tell me it's brilliant. They're like, there's nothing more clarifying than that. I don't have to think about anything. There's
That's
no thoughts. I
awesome.
just
I
know.
love that. I really love that. So let's say you're going on a date, you just tell them like, "Hey, there's gonna be no physical contact for 5 weeks," or you just don't let them touch
Not
you? Like
weeks,
how
dates, 5
sorry,
dates.
5 dates, however long that takes. Like you just
Right.
tell them so they know up front, or you just like, "Don't touch me." Like what?
So yeah, you can't make it awkward and weird. Sometimes I
Right.
tell people you can blame it on me. You can be like, I saw that matchmaking lady on Netflix, and she had this concept, and it
Let
works
me
for
try
some
it.
people. So you want to try this game, like make it my crazy
Yeah.
idea and not theirs, and just say like no touching for 5 dates, and like if we like each other, whatever, we'll figure the rest out later. Like, are you game? A lot of the women that have tried this, they've told me they're like, yeah, a lot of guys they say, yeah, sure, no problem, and the ones that say like, oh, I don't know if I can do that, they're not
They're the
serious
wrong
anyway. So
person.
you totally dodged a bullet. I wouldn't say that like before you get on a first date, because it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
weird to like, I don't even know if I like you enough to get on a
yeah,
first date. But you need to say it at some point on the first date, like before there's a good night hug or a kiss or a something,
yeah.
so that it's not, so that it avoids that
Awkward.
awkward moment. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think it's okay to say like because I want to find the right person, and I just want to be able to have more clarity about the process, and this seems to be the easiest way to figure it out without extra therapy or talking to 10
Yeah.
friends to figure out if we like each other.
And I can see that as someone who Joel and I talked for at least 2 months, like FaceTiming before he actually came out here. And so I can see that. Like those are kind of like dates since we were in the same area. And, you just know so much more about them. You're not confused by anything physical. It's like, I know I like this person. Like, in fact, by
Exactly.
the time I met him, we were like, I love you. Like, we just knew it. Actually,
And
the
you
person,
know both sides. Like
yeah.
you like him, but also even equally as important, he likes you. Like nobody's confused.
Right. Exactly. I think that's so brilliant. In fact, I told my 18-year-old son he wasn't so sure about that, but I'm going to keep talking to him about that. He's an 8-year-old boy. He's like, I don't know.
He's
But
probably just looking to have fun, and that's fine. And I also tell people, if you just want to have fun, just clarify, like,
yeah, that's
I'm
different.
I'm here to have fun. So we're not serious, but when you're serious and you really want to find that person, this is the way to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. I love that. I love the name of this chapter because my mom used to say this to me all the time. Rejection is God's protection. Whenever I'd come home from a date crying in high school, whatever, like rejection is God's protection. So tell us what you talk about in this chapter.
So a lot of people, when rejection happens, they take it very personally,
Yeah.
and they're just like, "Oh my gosh, what's wrong with me?" And I'm like, whoa, why did we go there?
Yeah.
What's wrong with, why is there an assumption that if this didn't work out, that there's actually something wrong with me?
Right.
It's something is wrong with we, with W in front, we, not
Mhm.
me. There's something wrong with us being together. Either it's that you don't like me or you don't like something about me, or I don't like you, or both.
Right.
And that's normal. And the protection piece is, it's such a blessing. There is a blessing in a no, and there is a blessing in clarity. And it's very hard to gain clarity. And when you get it, it's a relief, because the hardest thing in dating is actually I don't know, which is middle of the road. Do I like you? Maybe. I don't know. Do
Yeah.
I like you enough to continue? Maybe. I mean, there's nothing wrong. I don't hate him. I guess I should date him, but I don't know if I want to date him, but I don't know if I like him. Like, that is like limbo. Like, I don't know which way we're going to go with it. And it's so frustrating. When you get a no, it's like, oh, okay, I thought that was going to be a yes. I liked you. I'm disappointed. I'm upset. I'm frustrated. But there's rejection is God's protection.
Yeah.
You need to move on, and you can move on right now. And so it goes through the whole book. When you read through it,
Yeah.
has
So good.
stories. And so you get to read the personal stories of clients with different names. Of course, all
Yeah.
of their names are changed, but so that you can hear how people have dealt with this. And some people don't deal with things very gracefully. And I'm trying to nurture them and teach them the lessons along the way of how to handle dating and the relationships and the whole process.
Mhm.
And other people grab on and they're like, oh, thank you. Okay, great. Now I don't have to spiral out about, what's wrong and why doesn't this work? And maybe I should change my dating profile or what I'm looking for because this didn't work and that didn't work and this didn't work. Like, no, no, no. 90% of the time it doesn't work. Yay. Rejection is God's protection. Yay. Date them till
Yeah.
you hate them. Yay. Like, I have all these mantras
Amen.
so that it's more easy and you can more gracefully get through the dating period.
Yeah, that's so helpful. So another common thing I hear from people that are widowed, they're dating again, like, okay, and I have this big Facebook group, so people post questions and it's like, so I'm dating this guy and he doesn't like me to talk about my late husband and he gets upset. And like, I hear about jealous new people and I don't get it because my husband's amazing, but I've heard about it and I always tell them that's a major red flag. Like if he is jealous, like tell us your thoughts about this whole situation.
I would agree with you that it's a red flag, because you're not going to live your life without ever referencing a part of your life that's so beloved to you. And for somebody not to see that and go, wow, what a, like, I'm so happy that you had such a loving
Yes.
partner and that you come so whole to this relationship and that you can be so present with me. What a blessing that you had a love before, and what a blessing that we can be in the place that we are together now. That to me is a really healthy response to that type of like comments. It depends. Listen, it also depends, and I think that we have to moderate how much do we repetitively share about our life that once was and a person that
Right.
once was, and how much do we comment, compliment, connect to the person who's with us now. Because
That's true.
I do know people that live in the past
Right.
and they're
That's true.
constantly looking with their head and looking backwards rather than looking ahead or looking forwards. And it's painful for the new person to not feel as beloved, to not feel as important. And it makes sense why they're not as beloved and not as important, but it doesn't feel so great. But a high level of jealousy wouldn't be great. A jealous type person would be better to date somebody who maybe is divorced and can't stand their ex and has a terrible relationship. And wow, you're amazing, and our relationship is amazing. And then they have, nothing that's that friction there between them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it
No,
just might be that they can't date somebody who has lost their spouse.
yeah, because I'm always like, that's a very red flag. You know, we have pictures of Luke, we have all this stuff. Like Joel, the right person will ask you questions. Like, this is part of who you are. Tell me about your life with him.
Right.
Like, what was it like? What was he like? You know, like the right person will understand. They'll give you space to grieve. You know, Joel does that. Like on the anniversary of Luke's death, just myself and my kids go out to eat, and he understands that's our thing that we do at Luke's favorite restaurant, and we have like our traditions, and he gives us that space. So the right person will be curious about your late spouse
Yeah.
and
I think
sorry.
the way that you just described it is incredibly healthy, that you have your relationship with the new person, right? And you have your life that you're building,
Yeah.
but that you always have space to look back, reflect, and be with the people who loved your former partner together, like
Yeah.
your children, and to celebrate the life that was. I think that that's a part of life and death and future.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of red flags, you have a chapter called Don't Ignore Red Flags. Tell us some of those red flags.
Oh, so red flag, there's red flags, and then I'm gonna even call it black flags.
Okay.
So red flags are things that for me don't work. It's a deal breaker. It's a line that's been crossed, and it doesn't have to be logical. It doesn't have to be anything. It's mine. I own it, and I don't want somebody who fill in the blank. I
Mm,
don't want somebody who smokes. I don't want somebody who is depressed. I don't want to, whatever it is. But a black flag would be somebody who's abusive, somebody
mhm.
who's an active alcoholic and not in
Right.
recovery, somebody, right? So that's a black flag. Why?
Yeah.
Because universally for everybody in the world, it's not like, oh, for some people that would be
Yeah,
okay.
no.
This isn't something that's healthy. But for a red flag, I also might have certain triggers or certain things that absolutely don't work for me. For example, and especially second time around, there are people that want to have children or more children, and people
Mhm.
that don't want to have any more
Right.
children, and they're done. And so it might be a red flag if you want to have kids, but I don't, or vice versa, because it's not a red flag in who they are or
Right.
even in what they want. It's a red flag in our compatibility or our
Mhm.
incompatibility. That's the biggest challenge, is that we're constantly assessing, are we right for each other? And where do I draw the line? And I have to draw a line, and the other person draws their own line and has their own categories. So I really have to know, for me, what's an absolute no? Or is there anything that's an absolute no that's a deal breaker? And I don't have to ask somebody, is that okay? That's my
Right.
preference. I'm
Right.
entitled to have my preferences.
What do you think about people making a list of like, okay, this is what I want in my next person? Like, what is your thought on that?
I love lists. I'm a list
Mhm.
human. So what I like is I'll tell you what I don't like. I
Okay.
don't like a list of like your top three. What are the top three things you want? And if you get those, you're so lucky. Yay for you. I
Oh,
don't like that because I don't personally think that I, as a human being, am going to be satisfied with the top three. What I personally prefer is a top 10, because the
mhm.
top five things I usually really want, like, a lot. And then the
Yeah.
bottom five things, it's like, I still kind of need those to a good degree, but less than the top five. And then anything after 10 is like icing on the cake. You're like, dude, you
Yeah.
just got your top 10 list. And to a nice degree, it's in alignment. So I like that we have a list of what are our values and what are the qualities that we're looking for, and our goals in life. What are our beliefs, and personality? What works for us? What is going to mesh and blend and help us to be a better person? And when we meet somebody like that, we're going to be able to support them and they can be a better person too. So if we start with that list that's a top 10, and I usually like to rank it like on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do
Right.
you need this, right? Like a lot of those things I need to a 10. That's my main thing I'm looking for. And then there's another category, which is actually fears. And
Mm,
when we talk about fears, we need to know what for me, like what are my triggers? What are the things that I have, maybe some sort of a trauma from the past, or
mm,
it could be from your own family. If making up a story, somebody in the family got divorced and I'm afraid of getting divorced. If they were abandoned as a child and abandonment is their issue, that might come up as a fear. And so as you're meeting people, if somebody doesn't show up, they're chronically late, they're not checking in, they're not texting and being consistent, that might trigger me, right? For somebody
right.
else, it might be a non-issue, like, oh, I don't need so much communication. But for
Yeah.
me, wow, that might be an issue. And if that triggers me, even if all of our top 10 align, if the fears and the things that I'm bothered by aren't, they have to also be aligned. Like, I can't be triggered to a high degree and I can't trigger you to a high degree, just medium or low.
Yeah.
Because it's normal. We're human beings, we're not angels. So we are always going to be triggered, but to a medium or a low degree,
That's good.
then, yeah, then we can make a relationship work.
That's so good. I made a list of what I wanted, and Joel had literally everything except for one, and that was likes to dance. But that was like optional, but he'll dance with me because he knows it's important to me. Um, So I love making the list, but I think there's also room for maybe some things like God knows better what we need. Like not like you said, like the top 10 maybe, but not like everything has to be exactly as our list. But
Right. No,
having,
in alignment, like to a
yeah,
degree.
to a degree. Yeah, I love that because you never know who you're gonna find. Can you tell us? We'll have to wrap it up soon, but you have categories. So mystery and the history, and then you have some other categories like you called when you meet people, or was that just the only one?
Oh my gosh, I have a list of Aliza isms. I have to look it up because I keep coming up
It's
with
okay.
them.
Like
Um,
there's like people that so the mystery and the history, and then I think there was something about like other ways that you'll meet people. No, maybe just what we talked about. Sorry, I'm confused.
yeah, I'm thinking on the spot of all of my
That's
like
okay. If you think of any.
packaged sweetly, right?
Yeah. No, you have so many good tips in your book, and this podcast is just gold. I've never had somebody come on and know this much about dating, which is amazing. I'm so excited for people to keep connecting with you. Do you have like events that you do online? Like, how could my audience connect with you? And do you do services online that they could connect? Or I don't even actually know
Absolutely.
exactly what you do.
So you can connect with me online. You can find me, Aleeza Ben Shalom, on any of the social media platforms. I'm going to spell it Aleeza Ben Ben Shalom Shalom, and you can put that in the notes somewhere.
I
But
will.
on any social media platform, and also AlizaBenShalom.com for my website. We do offer matchmaking. We do offer coaching.
Awesome.
In terms of matchmaking, I would connect you to the right network.
Yeah.
We're interconnected with matchmakers all across the U.S. and the globe as well. And so wherever somebody's looking for somebody, our greatest gift is to be a matchmaker and find the right person to put you with so that they can help you find the right person. There's a lot of different databases that you could be in
Yeah.
that matchmakers are consistently searching in. And I'd love to be a support and help. And if
That's
anybody needs
awesome.
coaching or support, I'm here for you.
Do you have any coaches or matchmakers that specialize in like widows and widowers?
Most people, I don't have anybody that does it exclusively,
Yeah.
but most people have a
Right.
very high,
Right.
matchmakers, all of us have a very high awareness because
Yeah.
this is our entire industry. So we focus
Right.
on singles, first time, second time, whether divorced or widowed, third time even. So it's very, I would say, common knowledge for a lot
Yeah.
of matchmakers. And we also know that um, widows, they tend to have a certain sweetness,
Yes.
which is different than somebody who, if there's older singles or you've been single for such a long time but
Right.
never had somebody, like there's a very different experience that they come
Mhm.
to a relationship with. So most people are in the matchmaking industry are versed in working with widows.
Yeah, that's awesome. This has been, yeah, such great information. So another thing really quick I thought of, a lot of people have their preferences or ask me like, okay, I've had people say, I'm a widow. I'm only going to date a widower. And I remember in the very beginning, that was my thought. And then I said, I'm not going to limit God. I'm going to say whatever. And Joel is divorced. He is not widowed. And I'm so glad that I was like, I'm going to leave it up to God because I don't know. And what I tell people, it's not about their title, like where they've like divorced or widowed. It's about the person. Because there can be someone who's divorced who totally doesn't get it. There can be someone who's divorced. No, he's never personally experienced what I have, but he's had his own grief in a different way of his family and all those things. So, what would be your thought when people are like, do I need to date a widower? Like, should I only do that? Like, what would you say to them?
I think you give good advice. I think you could be a matchmaker.
Good. I've
I,
met a lot of
I
people.
I happen to agree with you, and I think that we shouldn't necessarily limit ourselves. I don't mind if somebody puts it as a preference,
Yeah.
but I would also say that it's a very small marketplace. Like again, in the matchmaking industry, we are always looking for widowers or somebody who like has had a love and knows how to love and is looking for a love again. That to us is something that we love to see and would love to help people with. But to make that the only thing you look for makes it a very, very, very narrow marketplace
Yeah.
because, and a lot of people who have had a love want to have a love again. So they're looking to get remarried. So I would agree with you. Like, let's not limit God and let's keep the possibilities open.
Yeah. So good. Well, is it okay if I close by praying for you? All right.
Yes.
Dear God, I just thank you so much for Aliza. Thank you for this gift that you've given her. And thank you that she's able to share it with our audience today. I just pray blessings over her marriage, her kids, her family, her business, and all that she's doing, that she'll continue to make a positive impact on the world. And God, I pray for every listener today that you'll just help them. If they're either ready to date, God, that you will just give them the strength and the tools and all the things they need and bring them to the right person, and to trust in you during this process, and to take these words to heart today that we've learned. And I just pray for peace and healing over everyone who's grieving, God, that you'll just go into the cracks of their hearts and cover them with the peace that passes all understanding. We just thank you for all you've done. Amen. Well, thank you, Aliza. This is like one of my favorite podcasts ever because I learned so much, just so full of information. I am so excited to connect people with you and, see what you've got going in the future and how people can connect with you. And I'm excited to find that people will find love, and I'll get to hear about it. And yeah, so thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.